Uncommits.
It's a twist on an old classic. It's fits for big uncommits. We're not sure if that's a word, but we are focusing on guys who are uncommitted and some potential good fits for them. Let's start with a guy that we've already talked about extensively on this show, and that is Kamron Mikell. So, Coop, where is a good fit for this four-star athlete?
I'm going to go with Colorado. Deion Sanders, that offense. New offense coordinator, Pat Shermer, with Sean Lewis, his new demotion. But you know what? They know a thing or two about receiver play right now. You look at Xavier Weaver, Travis Hunter, obviously we know about him. Jimmy Horn Jr. and Omarion Miller stepped up as a freshman as well. So to me, it's about opportunity. I think you got to evaluate opportunity with player development as well. But Kamron Mikell, he wants to be recruited as a receiver. I think he can step up, go play early in Boulder. And I think this is the type of guy that prime time is going to have to find a way to win. If you can get him out of the state of Georgia, battling the likes of Georgia and Tennessee, this will go a long way.
Cooper, you know, when I look at guys like this that are explosive on both sides of the ball, one thing that I continue to hear about his recruitment is he wants to be recruited as a wide receiver. I've always told my players, though, sometimes, guys, I know you want to score touchdowns, but the defensive side of the ball is where you're going to have the longest career. I like Georgia for this kid. I like what Will Muschamp and Kirby Smart are doing with that secondary. And like I said before, I think that when coaches want you to play defense and you're forcing your way on the offensive side, you can be holding yourself back a little bit. I think that he has more upside as a defensive back than a wide receiver.
He's got two crystal balls in for Georgia right now. He did visit the Buffs in September. Our friend Ben Wolk was on the show earlier and said that Georgia sees him as a wide receiver too. But Carl, could there be maybe some potential drawing to Colorado if he is able to play both sides of the ball like we see?
Well,
with Travis
absolutely,
Hunter?
because you know that Coach Prime is willing to allow you to do that. So Coach Prime, if you can handle it, he will let you do it. He does have a rule, though. You have to be dominant on one side of the ball first. So if he can go down there and show that he can do that, and if he's in condition, he'll get the opportunity to do that there.
He needs no introduction, but I did totally forget to introduce you. This is Cooper Petagna, by the way, joining us for this lovely discussion. Yes, just wave to the audience here. Let's talk about the five-star offensive tackle, Jordan Seaton. Carl, I'll start with you. Where would he fit best?
He's going to fit best at the University of Colorado because he can get plugged in and he can play. They need offensive linemen to come in and play right away. This guy is box office. He has an opportunity to be very dominant, has everything that you check off for in a left tackle. He can run on screen game. He can pass block. He's a great down blocker in the run game. I think at the University of Colorado, he has an opportunity to step in from very day one and take his place in the lineup.
By the way, that fun behind-the-scenes footage was of Jordan Seaton taking over our Instagram page this weekend, so thank you for that. Go ahead. Where does he fit?
I'm going to go with the boring answer. That's Alabama, right? They know a thing or two about offensive line development. You think about Tyler Booker was a guy that was pretty similar to Jordan Seaton. I think a lot of people thought he was going to be a tackle coming out of IMG Academy. He's played guard. He is the fixture of their line of scrimmage right now. That offensive line playing really well. You think about J.C. Latham, too. That's probably going to be a guy that's going to declare early for the NFL draft. All of a sudden, you look at Alabama's offensive line, right? With Latham out, there will be some opportunities to play early. I think this is a guy that has proven he's already changed his body at IMG Academy. You look at the list of players from IMG to Alabama at the offensive line. I talked about Tyler Booker. How about this? J.C. Latham, right? Another guy probably going to go day one. Evan Neal, top 5 draft pick as well. So if you're Jordan Seaton, you're looking for proof of concept, especially from the high school that you have been at. There is a pipeline from IMG Academy to Alabama. All else equal in the NIL era, I think this is a pretty clear decision to him. That Tuscaloosa is the best path forward.
I feel like if you're going to build an offensive line from one school, that is a good one to pluck talent from. He is, of course, fresh off that visit to Boulder. You saw the beautiful images of him enjoying that Colorado sunset. So thank you again, Jordan Seaton, for that. Let's move to a top 20 defensive lineman in Jericho Johnson. Carl, where do you see him fitting best?
I see him fitting at Oregon because he can plug the inside. Defensive line coach Tosh Lapoy, Dan Lanning is a great defensive-minded coach in himself. He brings a skill set that they need in their defensive line room, from the ability to play one gap and two gap schemes when you have an anchor like this in the middle of your defense. I think Oregon is a tremendous fit for Jericho Johnson.
I'm going to follow Coach here, right? Big bodies are hard to find on the defensive line, especially on the West Coast. And you think about Oregon, they're going to lose a couple of them as well. Casey Rogers, Taki Taimani, Keon Ware-Hudson. those guys are really hard to find. And I love what Oregon has done on the defensive side of the line of scrimmage. You think about five-star Aiden Breland, you think about Elijah Rushing as well. Jericho Johnson is a little bit different of a body. He's a nose tackle, right? So a guy that's probably only going to play 2 downs. This would be a huge win for Oregon. You talked about it. Dan Lanning, he's got it cooking right now. He's got the heater in terms of defensive line development, front 7. I think they're building it a little bit differently than everybody else on the West Coast. I think Jericho Johnson would be a beautiful fit in Eugene.
Yeah, you said that style of play is hard to find. They've found a lot of great defensive linemen for Oregon, and that would just be an absolutely stacked class. I know for a little bit we're kind of rooting for that to happen, just to see the nastiness on that defensive line for Oregon. But we'll see where Jericho Johnson ends up. How about top 247 athlete Daniel Hill? Coop, where do you see him fitting in?
I'm going to go South Carolina, right? And this is more need fit in terms of South Carolina and Shane Beamer. They missed Jaheim Bell a lot, who transferred to Florida State over a year ago. And you think about South Carolina, you think about their inability to rush the football. They are 125th in the country right now. They're averaging less than 86 yards per game. So you can go to Alabama, you'll have Jamarian Miller, and you'll have guys like Justice Haynes that you are going to have to play behind, and you'll have to sit. That's not going to be a bad decision. But right now, South Carolina, Shane Beamer, they need some playmakers. I talked about Jaheim Bell hurting that offense, him not being there, now being at Tallahassee. I think Daniel Hill, he has a tremendous versatile skill set. He can do a lot of different things, very talented as a receiver as well. I think he'd be a fun fit in South Carolina.
I like Daniel Hill going to the Crimson Tide. Coop, I'm going to push back on you a little bit. I think that he has a dynamic skill set as well that can be used for multiple things in that offense. But if you're going to play the running back position primarily, if he turns into that, Alabama has shown you time and time again that they have the formula to produce back after back after back. And they watch the amount of carries you get, which is great for your development going to NFL for the position that has the shortest term in the NFL career.
Just like you guys, the crystal balls are split right now. Alabama has 2, South Carolina has 1, so we'll see on him. We're going to move to the number 7 cornerback in 2024, Jamari Howard. Carl, he will commit on the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel on Friday, so we won't have to wait long to figure out where he's going to fit in. But if you were picking right now, what's the program for him?
Florida State for this guy. Mike Norvell is doing such a tremendous job recruiting when you think about getting other guys like KJ Bolden, another guy that's a defensive back with a multifaceted skill set, can cover, can come up and tackle. These young corners are tackling more, Coop, than what corners back in the day like to do, getting involved in the run game. I think that this is a tremendous cover guy. Florida State, I think, is the fit for him.
I like Florida State here, too. I mean, I think Randy Shannon's done a tremendous job. You also got to give Patrick Surtain Sr. a lot of credit as well. You look at Florida State, what they've done in their secondary. Edwin Joseph last year, Quindarius Jones as well, Conrad Hussey, late flip from Penn State. You add in a guy potentially like Jamari Howard, you see it 6'2", 275 pounds. He's going to need a little bit of time, but I think that's the blessing of going to a place like Florida State. A lot of talent in that defensive back room. He can sit, develop. I think this is a guy, he's got a top 50 type of skill set if it all comes together. Jamari Howard is a name that we really like a lot. It's all about fit for him, so I think that place is going to be really important.
3 crystal balls in for Florida State. Again, we will find out on Friday right here on the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. You guys have been asking such wonderful questions. We're going to answer a couple because Coop's sitting in the hot seat, I'll call it. Andre wants to know, who's the best recruiting class that's not in the top 20? It's a tough one.
I got tipped off on this one, thankfully enough. I'm going to go with Arkansas at number 23, and I really like them. And you might be thinking, well, they just lost top 247 receiver Courtney Crutchfield. They've done some other good things as well. I really like Charleston Collins, a defensive lineman there, really athletic kid. Ole Miss is pushing for him right now, as you can imagine. Arkansas's 3-6, but you look at some other names. Selman Bridges, another corner that we have in the top 247, long, athletic, reactionary kid, drips of upside. Aston Bethel Roman, whose dad, Mark Roman, played at LSU, has got all the genetics, can certainly fly. I think Arkansas has done a really good job at the receiver position. And then you think about Kavion Henderson, another defensive lineman they got out of Alabama, and then KJ Jackson, who I really like a lot. I think he's got some shades of KJ Jefferson there. They've done a really good job. Julius Pope, another name. Arkansas is kind of one of those teams. They're easy to overlook because of the on-field results this year, but in terms of what they're doing recruiting, if Sam Pittman's going to keep his job going forward, it's going to be because of classes like this. So I give them a lot of credit.